Welcome back. Some of the local names for those local gene could crack one up. Or that's what we're focusing on this morning, that decision by NAFDAC to wade in. Well, we're joined now by Dr. Paul Orhii, the Director General of NAFDAC. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
I'm just wondering, I mean, the response from them, I'm sure NAFDAC expected that kind of response, but how did NAFDAC arrive at that decision?
Well, you know, you heard about deaths in Ondo State. And then while we were working on that, trying to sort out what the problem was, you heard about other deaths associated with the consumption of ogogoro in River State. And then suddenly you heard about deaths in other countries like India. About 100 people died consuming this locally brewed gin. So as a responsive agency that's charged with the responsibility of ensuring the health of the nation, we had to do something about it. We have decided to look into the production process. So that's why we said let us ban it temporarily. The ban is not absolute, but temporarily, while we sort out what are the problems associated with this contamination and deaths.
We also had what happened in India, in Faroe, India. That was after the Ondo episode, as well as the Rivers episode. And you're an expert, that's your field. It would seem that there must be a component or an ingredient of this local gene that runs across, irrespective of countries, to have warranted some of these. In your findings, I don't know if you're done with findings in Ondo, what were those you know, what was the outcome of your findings from Ondo State?
You know, alcohol, there are different types of alcohols. That's methanol and ethanol. Ethanol is the one that is good for consumption. Methanol is toxic. And sometimes when we say we are going to denature alcohol, make it not good for human consumption, methanol is added into ethanol. So in this case, methanol is highly toxic. And all the symptoms that we notice, blood vision, all these other things, we are associated with methanol intoxication. And then we did laboratory tests and found out that in those samples, we had very high methanol content, much higher than is allowed. And the same thing in the Rivers case too.
How did the local brewers, I mean, you had the two women there that spoke, say they grew up with this product. This is what they've known all their lives. How is it that they introduced methanol into it?
These are the questions that we are trying to unravel. Because we know that people have been taking this ogogoro for a long time. There had been problems, but not to this magnitude. Well, I said there have been problems even before now. States like Benue attempted to ban it because of the social consequences that it is causing, the health and social consequences. You see that the locally brewed gin is highly toxic and very highly addictive.
So it has a high methanol content?
Methanol may not only just be methanol, but other contaminants that make it very toxic and addictive too. It is very addictive. Before you know it, somebody begins to lose weight, begins to lose energy, cannot participate. Of course, the liver functions are impaired. They don't have enough energy to cope with their responsibilities as parents at home. Their children, of course, they cannot work and earn money. So it was a big problem in Benue State, and the Benue State legislature attempted to enact a law to ban it. But we went there and worked with them, and we slowed it down. Then we thought that the thing has gone back to normal, and then now you hear about deaths in two states. So we have to do a holistic evaluation of the production process, why it is being produced, at what point is methanol introduced. Is it the production process that maybe sometimes allows methanol to be, there's a process that alcohol is formed. And so if you allow that process for alcohol to be formed, it could be other contaminants. Like it could be methanol produced or it could be ethanol produced. So other contaminants could make it, could introduce methanol into the process.
When you said you went to Benue State and worked with them and slowed it down, was that a form of approval given to the product?
No, what we did was to, at that point, we told people to stop it. And we did some raids and destroyed large quantities of this ogogoro together with the Benue State government.
You know, I'm just looking through some of these images and you wonder, wow, what is the standard? I mean, how is this regulated? Because many would have thought, in order to even identify this product, that there has to be some sort of standard. Or would it have been a good idea if NAFDAC moved into those areas where those deaths are recorded, restrict or place that temporary ban in those areas while you continue studying it, as opposed to having this blanket temporary ban, which will affect everybody?
The problem with that is that it is produced in some areas and then moved all over the country. If you find out the one that we found in Benue State comes all the way from either Delta, Bayelsa, some other states from the south, and then is moved. Even Taraba had a big problem, and they were inviting me to come and do the same thing. NAFDAC wanted to partner with NAFDAC to do the same thing. But even the one that was involved in deaths in Ondo State and also in River State, you found out that they moved from different states all over across. So you do not know where the contamination is coming from. And the worst thing is, because it is not regulated, when there are such cases, you do not even know where it came from, because nobody will claim that nobody will accept that it came from them. It is not marked. There are no batches, so you cannot trace it. It is very difficult to trace where it came from.
In addition to that, they all have different names. So how do you now keep up with all those lists? Because I mean, if I know the name as maybe as they say, Kai Kai, another one says, look, this is Push My Push You, and they all have different names. So what are you doing now about regulating all of them to ensure that wherever you see, whichever name they call it, you know that this is the product you're talking about?
The name might be different, the names might be different, but the product is the same. So we will look at the product, and what we intend to do is to get them to register it so that we can regulate it, so that we can regulate the production process. Maybe we'll have somebody teach them the appropriate production process to avoid all these contaminants. And of course, we sample it randomly from time to time to make sure that it conforms to quality standards. Alcohol generally is a big problem. There is a big problem in alcohol in Nigeria, even the one that is imported. And we are even going to do a holistic evaluation of the alcohol industry. You know, there is alcohol fraud. That's globally known as alcohol fraud. If you import absolute alcohol, that's the full grade alcohol, into the country, your taxes are higher, up to about 20% duty. But if you import the natural alcohol, that one is supposed to be used only for industry, then you pay maybe just about 5%. So to beat this, you know, the difference of almost 15% duty, people go and denature the alcohol, even the one for food grade, which is denaturing means that is supposed to be made so that it's not fit for human consumption. So they will denature it sometimes with very toxic substances like bittrex. They beat the customs, they come and declare the natural alcohol. Then they come in and then try to purify it back to food grade. You know, and sometimes they're not entirely successful, and bittrex is very toxic.
Dr. Orhii, wow. It takes us back to some years ago, if my mind doesn't fail me here, we had you here in the studios, we were talking about having NAFDAC officials at points of entry to see if they can get hold of samples of some of these things. And if you say some of them are actually denatured and brought in, if I am a custom official, there's no doubt, there's no way whatsoever I will know if those are fit for consumption. And if you look at what we have just shown you now, you just realize that the environment where these are made is even unwholesome. It goes back to Chamberlain's question, which I am not satisfied with the answer yet, is do we have NAFDAC officials who go around some of these communities? Because it would seem as if we're looking at the highbrow areas, some big-time supermarkets, looking at so many other things. That is why my people, your people in the local communities are now victims of these illicit brewed gin.
You see, the issue is that we regulate food products, but it's only food that is processed food.
Okay, processed food.
Processed and packaged food. So ogogoro crosses is just on the borderline. It is processed, but it's not packaged. So the problem is you know, our mandate is triggered when you begin to package a food product for mass distribution. So Okokoro is right at the borderline. So when there was no problem with the consumption, when we did not find any major issue with it, we just overlooked it. We did not pay much attention to its regulation. That is why you see some of the places that they produce are so unhygienic and unwholesome for human consumption. But now that there is a problem, our mandate has been triggered because we are charged with responsibility of safeguarding the health of the nation. So we will step in, make sure that we visit all these places, make sure that the production process follows good manufacturing and good hygienic processes, practices, and we taste it to make sure that the products are wholesome.